the pool house like a goddamn hound had he known she was a virgin. Yeah, he was a typical 19-year-old at the time, but he wasn't a complete asshole. Unfortunately, by the time his cock had met with resistance and he realized it was her first time, she tightened her legs around his back, lifted her hips, and pulled him in deeper. Afterward, he'd tried to wrap her in his arms until he knew she was okay, but she'd pushed away from him, insisting she was fine, her tough armor keeping him out. With only the moonlight shining in through the small pool house window, she'd scrambled back into her clothes, fled like a cat from water, never to be heard from again. Cheers erupted in the room, and his thoughts came rocketing back to the present. He found her in the crowd again and watched her sashay around the tables in 2 high heels he assumed very few women could master. With her arms in the air and a pair of handcuffs glinting in the overhead light as they dangled from her fingertips, the bad girl nurse gave an extra shake to her hips as she pulled Jake Banyan, a guy Carson had grown up with, now an ER colleague, from his chair, and paraded him around the room before she marched him to the bar. What the hell was going on? Carson's mind raced to catch up. Oh, right. Tonight was the bar's yearly charity auction. That had to be the reason she was dressed in a retro nurse uniform, and the funds the hospital staff helped raise would go toward feeding the homeless. He'd seen the flyers in the doctor's lounge, but it had been a hell of a long day getting his administration work sorted out, and while he was all about donating, the event had slipped his mind. Little Miss Sexy Nurse grabbed a microphone off the small podium. "Come on, ladies," she said, waving her hand over Jake's body like a game show host unveiling a prize and wiggling against him suggestively. Jake, who Carson had long ago branded an arrogant asshole, went along with it, playing the women in the bidding pool like they were well-tuned instruments. Still dressed in his hospital scrubs, Jake turned toward the mahogany bar top. All in good fun, he aimed his ass at the crowd and pretended to pick something up. Thunderous claps roared in Carson's ears, and Carson found himself grinning. Better Jake than him. Carson's sexy nurse ran her fingers over Jake's stethoscope and pressed it to her heart. She fanned her other hand in front of her face and bent one knee, her back curving seductively. Jesus, she was sexy. His cock jumped. Shit, down boy. "I don't know about you ladies," she said, her voice sexy, breathless, "but Jake sure has my heart pulsing." As Jake eye-fucked her, she looked into the crowd and winked, her sassy attitude completing the bad girl package. "I think I might want to keep this naughty boy all to myself." Like hell she would. A wave of possessiveness Carson had no right to feel prowled through him. Tension dug into his neck as he hiked his backpack up higher on his shoulder, letting go of the door he was still clutching. As it banged shut, heads turned his way and he forced his legs to work. He sidestepped a few tables until he found one in the corner. He eased himself into the seat, losing himself in the shadows, wanting nothing more than to watch her. For now. Hell, he'd been looking 10 long years for her. A few more minutes weren't going to kill him. Or maybe they would, especially if she kept shaking her sweet ass like that. He shifted uncomfortably, admiring and appreciating, lusting inappropriately. $50, a middle-aged woman in the crowd yelled, waving paddle number 62 in the air with enough enthusiasm that Jake ought to be scared. Lord knew Carson would be. Carson's sexy nurse let her gaze travel the length of Jake and sighed. She pouted that lush mouth of hers and lifted the microphone. "As hot as you are, Jake, I'm afraid that's out of my budget." She pointed to the woman with the paddle. "Let the bidding begin." She handed off the microphone to a woman dressed in nursing scrubs. With alcohol flowing freely, the room bristled with excitement. The crowd was loud, alive, the atmosphere electric. Carson sucked it all in, feeding off the rush. It gave him a second wind, watching his sexy nurse search the crowd for her next victim. "Thanks, Gemma," said the auctioneer, a naughty smile playing on her lips as she ran her finger along the scruff on Jake's jaw.